Tonight, bombshell new claims that lawyers hope will set Novak Djokovic free. Live coverage from Melbourne and Serbia. Plus, the Andrews government extends pandemic powers for 3 more months, with high-level talks underway to fix the supermarket crisis. Calls to delay the start of the school year as Victoria records 44,000 new cases. Queensland in the grip of a deadly flood emergency. At least 7 killed in a cliff-face tragedy, and a thrilling finish to the 4th Ashes Test at the SCG.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Blake Johnson starts now.
Good evening. Explosive evidence is shedding new light on Novak Djokovic's fight to avoid being deported as the tennis superstar spends a 4th night in a Melbourne detention hotel. Lawyers claim Djokovic caught COVID last month and should be exempt from the vaccine. But serious questions are emerging on the timeline of events before his arrival here.
With the world number 1 stuck in detention, the 4th seed helped launch the Australian Open's class of 2022. But Stefanos Tsitsipas was tight-lipped on the fight facing Novak Djokovic. Quick question, what do you make of Novak's play?
Absolutely nothing. I'm sorry, no comment.
Are you confident he'll be out?
I don't know, I have no idea.
As the Serbian star prepares to front the federal court tomorrow, explosive court documents reveal details about his fight for an Australian visa. The cut-off for players to apply for a vaccine exemption was December 10, but Djokovic's application relies on his testing positive to COVID-19 on December 16, 6 days after the deadline. Serbian law says he should have isolated for 14 days, but the very next day, December 17, the world number 1 was pictured at an official function, mask-free and shaking hands with guests.
Nego želim da prosto sa svojom podrškom I ljubavlju prema njemu.
It's being argued that the decision that was made to revoke the visa is not consistent with the provisions of the Migration Act.
Once at Melbourne Airport, Djokovic says he begged officials to delay his interview to 8:30 so he could rest and contact Tennis Australia. He claims they agreed before waking him early and cancelling his visa.
He's not even getting treated like a human anymore. Bro, when we had the bushfires, bro, he was supporting us. But now, like, we're just treating him like he's never done anything for us, like he's a villain, like he's actually not.
The Djokovic application actually goes to the heart of some critical aspects of coalition government policy to protect the Australian population during COVID.
Tomorrow, the federal court judge could hand down a decision within hours, but the losing party is expected to appeal.
A decision like this could have significant precedential value, and I'm sure the government would want to appeal, which would create further legal delays for Djokovic.
A drawn-out process 2 other Australian Open arrivals chose not to undertake.
The other advice that I have from Border Force is that their assessment of any visas relating to the Australian Open has now been completed, and 2 other individuals have now voluntarily left the country.
We have reporters at Djokovic's Carlton Hotel and his hometown in Serbia. First to Jodie Lee. Jodie, there's been a late legal twist.
Well, Blake, it's been revealed Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews made a last-minute plea for more time to prepare for this case. She approached the courts late last night and asked for tomorrow's hearing to be delayed until Wednesday. Now, that request was refused. Time really is of the essence in this case. Tonight, Novak Djokovic will spend a 4th night inside this detention hotel. He has just 8 days left to secure a visa before play begins in the Australian Open.
Jodie Lee in Carlton, thank you. Let's go to Serbia now. Sally Geitz in the capital, Belgrade. Sally, tension is rising on the streets ahead of tomorrow's legal showdown.
They certainly are, Blake, and once again Serbians have spilled onto the streets here in Belgrade in a defiant show of support for the detained tennis superstar. The world number 1's family have told me they are now in a standing and a waiting pattern ahead of tomorrow's federal court proceedings. On the steps of Belgrade's parliament, hundreds of Serbians rallying for a 3rd time in a show of unwavering support for their country's brightest star, whose future remains in the dark.
He's very brave. He's arrested, he's in the prison basically. So we are very unhappy about that.
Novak Djokovic's family are surrounded, embraced by his fiercely loyal and furious fans.
Not to treat him, like a smuggler, right? Like a criminal.
In Serbia's capital, a city of more than 1 million people, it's clear Novak Djokovic is not only the world's number one, but their 1 in a million.
Novak Djokovic is my brother, like my heart.
It's nothing short of an obsession for most. Novak's detention dilemma bringing young fans close to tears.
I feel so bad. I want to cry. How bad situation this is.
The family insist crowds like this will continue to gather here in Belgrade until Novak is on the court. Their clear message, they want him to play.
I would like Novak to participate because the Australian Open without Novak Djokovic is not the same.
His loved ones bunkering down ahead of tomorrow's deportation challenge in federal court.
We are not giving any interviews until the court gives their decision.
Joining the world in an anxious wait. In Belgrade, Serbia, Sally Geit, 7 News.
High-level talks are underway to ease COVID isolation rules in a desperate attempt to get food back on supermarket shelves. It comes as Victoria struggles to cope with massive daily case numbers and more system errors.
Arriving for crisis talks to help restock empty shelves, the Prime Minister is being asked to lead a nationwide approach. Industry groups want Victoria to follow New South Wales' lead, allowing workers to leave isolation if they're a household contact but not sick.
Companies are obviously really concerned at the loss of staff at the moment, and they're telling me that anything between 10 to 20% of their staff are being forced to stand down because of being close contacts. And that means they're standing down for 7 days. It's too long.
We are going to get more strains. We are going to get more challenges into the future when it comes to COVID. We can't have a 2020 approach.
Currently in Victoria, anyone who lives with a positive case must isolate for 7 days. But there are hints the rule will change, both from Canberra.
Workforce and furloughing, which remains the principal national challenge at this point in time.
And our acting Premier.
There's further consultations that are ongoing with other industry groups, particularly supermarkets.
The average wait time at testing sites has fallen to an hour as the state switches to relying on rapid antigen testing. Our change to online self-reporting has had teething problems, like text messages freeing people from isolation on the same day they tested positive.
That was fixed yesterday and corrective messages were sent out. I'd like to apologise not only to my daughter but the other people who received that message.
Melbourne Pathology told a further 7,000 people their week-old test samples were no longer suitable to be processed.
So I do apologise for those people who've been waiting a long time for their results. I would expect them to really check their own symptoms. I would urge them to get another rapid antigen test or a PCR test and then to use that to make the determinations about their next steps.
The system is a shambles. It's a shambles because the government has not properly prepared.
Victoria recorded more than 44,000 new cases, the results evenly split between PCR and rapid results. The figure is still inflated as people register RAT tests from previous days.
9,000 of those rapid antigen results were for tests taken yesterday, so around 40% were for tests actually taken yesterday.
Medical chiefs are now encouraging people to be ready to manage COVID at home with pain relief and plenty of fluids.
You may also benefit from using electrolyte powder or solution, which you can buy from your supermarket or pharmacy. But important to be prepared because you won't be able to go to your supermarket or pharmacy if you are diagnosed with COVID-19.
And there were some more testing headaches this afternoon when an IT glitch at some sites sparked delays for people either waiting for their free rapid or a PCR swab. Thankfully, those issues have now been resolved and the Premier, Daniel Andrews, returned from leave half a day early this afternoon to sign off on the latest pandemic declaration. A fair bit has changed since his last official day here on Spring Street, December 10, when the state recorded around 1,200 new cases. And this afternoon, the acting Chief Health Officer said there's no indication yet that Victoria has seen the peak of this current wave.
Emma O'Sullivan outside Parliament, thank you. Victoria is resisting calls to delay the start of the school year as primary students prepare to get their COVID vaccines. Queensland is already putting classes on hold, worried doses won't be given out quickly enough.
The race is on to get jabs in arms before our youngest students return to the classroom.
It didn't hurt at all.
The rollout starts tomorrow for 2.3 million 5 to 11-year-olds.
We want to make sure that schools are safe, not only for students but for staff as they return at the beginning of the school year.
Queensland has delayed the start of Term 1 by 2 weeks.
It is not desirable to have our children back starting school during the peak of this wave.
But our acting Premier isn't pressing pause.
We have no announcements to make around the return to school other than we are working towards school resuming.
The vaccines are ready to go at this pharmacy in Clyde.
Well done.
But others are still waiting on their deliveries.
We've been told by the federal government that there isn't a stock supply issue.
The Health Minister says there'll be 3 million doses available by the end of the month.
But there have certainly been some challenges getting access to that supply into the fridges.
36 state-run clinics will offer jabs too.
2 of those appointments for my own children.
They've been decorated in a kid-friendly jungle theme, and some sites even offer virtual reality to calm anxious children.
Thanks for coming in today to get your vaccine.
120 children are already booked in to get their first jab here at the old Ford factory tomorrow. Staff are hoping over the next few weeks they'll be able to vaccinate 350 children every day.
No child likes to have a needle, and so I think preparing them is important. Not making too big of a deal of it and making them very anxious, but giving them some sense of control.
If you're watching and if you're a little scared, it didn't hurt at all, so just go for it.
Estelle Greeping, 7 News.
New South Wales has marked its deadliest day of the pandemic. 16 people have died with the virus there in the past 24 hours. But case numbers have dropped to just over 30,000 new infections.
In terms of hospitalisations, we currently have 1,927 people with COVID in hospital in New South Wales, 151 of whom are in intensive care.
Queensland recorded a new daily record of 18,000 cases and a new record for South Australia with 4,502. There are 2 new cases in WA. Queensland is in the grip of a deadly flood emergency, with waters expected to peak at more than 10 metres in the coming hours. Grave fears are held for a missing 14-year-old girl swept away while she tried to escape.
The small city of Maryborough at the centre of Queensland's major flooding emergency. This temporary flood levee, built as a line of defence just yesterday, suffered a catastrophic failure this afternoon.
The stormwater pipes underneath have failed. It's heartbreakingly disappointing for the businesses here and for the whole community. This changes from 12 businesses to being inundated to perhaps 100.
Forcing an evacuation and exclusion in the heart of the city, some homes already submerged by the torrent of water. Julie Schneider and her son Daniel have lost almost everything.
I just grabbed a suitcase and paperwork and what we could, and off we on the dinghy with the dog.
Pretty sad, yeah.
It's an anxious wait for others.
We were up all night putting things up, so we'll just see how we go.
The peak expected later tonight at 10.5 metres.
At this stage, we're expecting around 80 homes to be impacted.
This is the wrath of ex-tropical cyclone Seth. 120 millimetres was forecast, more than 600 millimetres fell.
That unexpected rain that fell in that catchment area over that 24 hours was absolutely unprecedented.
Albeit that the rain has stopped, the risk remains.
One person has been killed and a desperate search is underway for a 14-year-old girl caught in floodwaters near Gympie, now missing for more than 24 hours.
We have very grave fears for this young lady.
As the Wide Bay braces for the peak of this emergency, the far north now preparing for tropical cyclone Tiffany.
We're well prepared there.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
At least 7 people have been killed in a devastating cliff collapse in Brazil. The terrifying moment was filmed by witnesses, and a warning, parts of this story may be distressing.
It started with a scream. Then a frantic warning to other boaties beneath the cliff face bordering Lake Furnas. Rocks had started falling, but most alarming, they were shearing away from the bottom of the canyon. The cliff's base was crumbling. A large crack appeared, and then... In slow motion, you see the red boat on the right had heeded the warnings and was trying to speed away. The white vessel on the left did not even move. An extraordinary irony in what could be described as an act of God. The boat that was crushed was called Jesus.
We are doing our search work on the surface of the water, in the water with the divers. The investigative work will continue. We are working with witnesses, family members and local companies.
Heavy rain in the area had forced 17,000 people from their homes in recent days. That is the preliminary cause. Lake Furnace is a popular tourist attraction west of Rio de Janeiro, famous for its photo opportunities and its waterfall. Now infamous for a rock fall that the country's Navy is investigating. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
Melbourne's Australia Day parade has been cancelled for the second straight year, but not because of the pandemic. The Andrews government has been accused of making a political move amid growing calls to change the date.
No, not at all. This has got everything to do with how, as a community, we choose to mark the day differently.
Details around this year's program will be released in coming days. Adelaide United player Josh Cavallo has called out homophobic abuse he heard during last night's A-League match against Melbourne Victory. The 22-year-old, who announced he was gay in October, took to social media today, saying he's not going to pretend he didn't see or hear the homophobic abuse at the game. Both clubs have condemned the behaviour. Andrew McCormack's here for a look ahead to sport. Andrew, the Aussies just couldn't finish the job in Sydney.
Oh, Blake, they came agonisingly close to going 4-0 up. A brutal spell from Pat Cummins late in the day gave the Aussies hope as England was ducking for cover to simply survive. Hear from Pat Cummins shortly. Also, an Aussie T20 World Cup hero blasts Cricket Australia.
I think the Derby Day was taking the piss out of a little bit.
Ash Barty's warning to our rivals ahead of the Australian Open.
Look out, Australian Open. Ash is coming.
And Blake, another AFLW superstar, has suffered a heartbreaking injury. That's about 3 in the opening round. We'll have more on that shortly.
See you soon, Macca. Thank you. Victorian chemists are in the firing line. Up next, how police cracked a destructive crime spree stretching from South Melbourne to Pascoe Vale. Plus, the alarming spike of drink drivers on Victorian roads. A medical boost to help fight the rarest of cancers. Kate Middleton marks her 40th birthday with a nod to Princess Di. And later, how virtual reality therapy is helping patients open up. An unlicensed driver has smashed his way into a Pascoe Vale chemist to steal medicine. Security cameras captured the dramatic ram raid, which locals say is becoming a terrifying trend.
This allegedly stolen traffic control truck tears down Gaffney Street in Pascoe Vale around 3 this morning, takes aim and rams into the front doors of the local pharmacy. The accused thief runs inside, barely discreet with flashing lights and undeterred by witnesses. He makes a second dash inside the store and then flees.
It's quite extensive. It actually went right up into the roof. We've had to pull the doors and all of the frame back. All the glass is falling down from the top.
The 36-year-old North Melbourne man is accused of stealing medicine and leaving the shop front shattered. It's another blow for the chemist already under immense pressure, now faced with a mammoth clean-up and thousands of dollars in repairs.
One nearby business says the previous owners of this chemist were targeted 8 times in similar attacks. Now they're pleading for a bigger police presence in the area.
This place has been robbed as well, I think 4 to 5 times. We don't want it anymore.
The chemist is one of 6 damaged in robberies across Melbourne since Christmas. The alleged thief was arrested in Essendon and has since been charged. Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
There's been an alarming increase in the number of drink drivers on Victoria's roads. 1 in every 254 motorists has been caught under the influence as part of Operation Roadwise. That compares with 1 in 455 before the pandemic. Police say they're also concerned about the growing number of restricted licensed drivers caught exceeding their zero alcohol limits. Research into some of the world's rarest forms of cancer and diseases has been given a multi-million-dollar boost. The federal government funding aims to help tailor treatment plans for those facing some of our toughest health battles.
More than 150,000 Australians were diagnosed with some form of cancer last year. And while there are often many treatments available, some rare forms of cancer mean options are limited.
Cancers that we just don't know how to treat or where the standard treatments fail.
Now, the federal government has committed more than $63 million to support new research into rare cancers and rare diseases.
Tailoring the medicine or the treatment or the dosage to that individual's personal requirements.
One study by the University of New South Wales awarded $1.5 million to trial precision treatment therapies for children with rare forms of cancer.
For the first time, we'll actually be looking at the genetic makeup of the cancer and using that to find the right treatment.
With the research being conducted here sparking global interest.
We're looking at expanding this trial internationally based on this Australian research.
Among the other 26 research grants, funding to assist cystic fibrosis, spinal cord injuries, rare respiratory illnesses and different forms of cancer. This latest round of funding, part of the government's Medical Research Future Fund, aiming to put Australian researchers at the forefront of medical breakthroughs.
We have the ideas, we have the know-how, we have the people power, but to get it off the ground, we really need this funding.
Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
The Duchess of Cambridge has marked her 40th birthday, revealing stunning new photos taken in November. They'll become part of the permanent collection of the National Portrait Gallery. The fashion photos show the Duchess in different Alex McQueen dresses with earrings formerly owned by Princess Diana. It'll be a low-key celebration for Kate this weekend due to COVID restrictions. Instead, she's expected to have a combined birthday with William in June. Sonia Marinelli is here. Sonia, after thunderstorms and flooding rain today, it was calm.
And Blake, it was exactly what we needed, ending the week on a mild, settled day. No risk of storms today, just the morning's drizzly cloud, which cleared early, and by lunch most of us were enjoying the sunshine, no matter where you were around town. It was a pleasant 21.9 degrees if you spent the day in the city, and we had a cool afternoon breeze. That helped just to freshen up the place. Tomorrow is settled again, but humidity builds on Tuesday and the storm risk returns as another tropical weather pattern sets up again. That could deliver a rumble of thunder during most days in the outlook. But I'll help you plan your week with the forecast after sport, Blake.
A little help's always good. Sonia, thank you. Bikie gangs are on notice in a police crackdown, plus how an Apple Watch helped rescuers track down a missing Victorian father and son. That's next. NASA unveils the latest piece of its new $14 billion telescope, how virtual reality hopes to change the world of therapy, and tributes for an Oscar-winning composer.
Of the way we were.
Hells Angels bikies are being put on notice with police announcing a major crackdown on the infamous outlaw motorcycle gang. The National Anti-Gangs Squad, led by the Australian Federal Police, is trying to put a stop to fast-growing crime networks here and overseas. It follows last year's operation targeting rival gang, the Comancheros. Life vests and a smartwatch helped a father and son survive when they capsized their kayak in rough seas. Today, the pair was reunited with the volunteer Coast Guards and the police who saved their lives.
Capsized kilometres from shore and barely visible from the air. Today, kayakers Andrew Telburn and his son Charlie were able to thank the first responders who saved their lives.
Thank you so much for the day.
No problem at all. That's what we're here for.
The pair set off from Leopold with the intention of camping at Port Arlington last Wednesday, but their kayak started to sink not long into their journey.
What was really noticeable with the sea state, we weren't making any headway. Obviously, we're very low in the water, so we're paddling furiously. We paddle for an hour and it's still the same place. So no, we're not getting anywhere. So we knew we were in trouble then.
Mr. Telburn alerted his wife and 000 through his smartwatch.
It was definitely scary and had to keep our composure and make sure we didn't panic.
I'm in the water on my Apple smartwatch, paddling, talking to her. I think the last thing she heard from me at the time was, "Ah!"
Geelong Coast Guard volunteer Tony Warren was one of the first to help.
I immediately phoned the water police and said, OK, have you got a job for us? And they said, yeah, we've got 2 in the water out of the mussel farm at Clifton Springs. I said, OK, I'm on my way. We travelled up here pretty quick because people in the water don't last a long time.
They were quite cold,
another 15 minutes or more, they would have been hypothermic.
Water police believe it's a matter of life and death when it comes to the decision of wearing a life vest. Mr. Telburn believes if he and Charlie weren't wearing theirs, they might not be here to share their story.
The conditions that day were quite rough, and life jackets do save lives. It's as simple as that. They're the seatbelts of the water.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
At least 22 people have died after becoming trapped in their vehicles during a snowstorm in Pakistan. Temperatures fell to -8 as more than a metre of snow blocked roads in and out of a resort town. Around 1,000 cars were stranded overnight. Military troops have been brought in to clear the roads. Astronomers around the world are feeling euphoria and relief tonight. A giant space telescope that promises to peer back through time like nothing before it has been safely deployed with help from down under.
NASA Ground Control, Baltimore.
3/4 of the way through the deployment, and everything still looks really good.
Backed by deep space antennas near Canberra, also in Spain and California, combining for moments like this.
Yes.
It has remotely rebuilt a potentially extraordinary window in space.
Yes, there was a huge sigh of relief. I think you could see that if you watched the video of us being in there.
And we have engine start.
Christmas Day.
Lift off.
Folded in the nose cone of an Ariane 5 rocket. 18 gold-plated mirrors with a tennis court-sized sun shield. The telescope designed to unpack en route to its new home, 1.6 million kilometres from Earth. One glitch could have spoiled a $14 billion investment. NASA instead posting 50 major deployments complete, 178 pins released, 20 plus years of work realised. Webb fully deployed.
We're going to have all kind of new knowledge about who we are, what we are, where we came from. Are there others out there?
A telescope is really a time machine.
Webb won't reach its position in space until later this month. Then several more months tweaking those mirrors. Glitches could still happen. The first images are likely about June. In the words of one NASA scientist, they'll knock everybody's socks off.
But we will find new things that we have no idea exists right now. And I'm so excited to find out what that is.
In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
Songwriter Marilyn Bergman has died aged 93. Ms. Bergman and her husband Alan wrote hits for numerous superstars, including Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson. And she won an Oscar for Barbra Streisand's The Way We Were. Respiratory failure that was not COVID-related. Australians reluctant to speak openly to a counsellor could soon have a new way to get help. Researchers are looking at how the virtual world makes some patients feel more at home.
We've seen it used for gaming and fun, but not like this. Virtual reality is being explored as a way to improve counselling services. A new study out of Edith Cowan University has applied the technology to a traditional counselling session with one small exception. The health professional is a digital avatar.
Importantly, the character they're talking to is driven by a real human rather than like the computer itself.
And it could open doors for those who wouldn't otherwise seek help.
About 30% of our participants said that they actually felt more comfortable in VR compared to face-to-face.
It's also hoped the technology will make existing telehealth services a more pleasant experience.
When we're chatting over phone or over video chat, there can be this sense of distance, and chatting in VR, you get put into the same location. It's a virtual location, but it's still kind of like a same physical space, and that can really help to bring this sense of closeness.
While this might seem a little far-fetched, it's expected VR social interaction will become more commonplace as the technology becomes more accessible and affordable.
Ultimately, it'll become a really smooth process, and probably just like clothes we're wearing, they'll just have sensors on them that will be able to be kind of connected to a VR experience somewhere else in the future. And it's probably not too distant future either.
Gemma Veroni, 7 News.
COVID case numbers are surging and health experts want Victorians to make crucial lifestyle changes before it's too late. Plus, an arson mystery as a car is burnt to a crisp in Fitzroy North, and a Melbourne baseballer mixing it with the boys in a league of her own. A Toyota hatchback has been reduced to a charred shell after a fire tore through the vehicle around 5:40 this morning. It took a dozen firefighters just over 10 minutes to extinguish the blaze on Ray Street, Fitzroy North. Police are now investigating the cause. Health experts want Victorians to make lifestyle changes now as COVID cases surge. One epidemiologist says weight loss can play a big role in avoiding severe symptoms and coping with the virus, which some authorities warn we'll all eventually get.
It started with a sniffle for Marissa Relly before a positive COVID diagnosis delivered headaches, fatigue and chest congestion.
I'm asthmatic and I had trouble breathing. I still don't have any taste or smell.
The symptoms were similar for Emily McFarlane.
The day that I woke up with symptoms, I had a sore throat. I was coughing really heavily. I was coughing up a lot of phlegm. I was super tired.
Both are fully vaccinated and have been able to manage their health at home while on the road to recovery.
Been trying to make myself eat healthy foods just to try and get my energy back up as well.
I was taking the vitamin C and turmeric just as an added benefit.
Doctors and nutritionists recommending a COVID care pack of rest, hydration and quality fruits and vegetables.
You want to be looking at getting things like zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, supporting gut health, where 70% of our immune system is located, so getting some good quality probiotics.
One of the things you can do in the medium term is lose weight. There's no doubt that overweight people get COVID much more severely, they get more breathless, they have more hospital admissions.
It's believed most people who contract Omicron will only suffer mild cold and flu symptoms. And while natural immunity can help protect your health, experts say it needs to be used alongside 3 doses of the vaccine.
This is completely complementary medicine to support the vaccine.
We need to optimise our health, and New Year's is a good time to be thinking about it.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
Dramatic police body cam video shows the moment a driver in Florida is pulled from her burning car. Officers used fire extinguishers and ripped off the driver's side door to free her. It's understood the woman was driving on the wrong side of the highway when she slammed head-on into another vehicle. A live deer has been found in the trunk of a car after the driver was pulled over for a random breath test in Pennsylvania. The woman told police she'd accidentally hit the animal and assumed it had died. Officers released the deer while the driver was taken into custody for suspicion of being under the influence of alcohol. A 17-year-old from Melbourne southeast is the talk of the sporting world after making history as the first female to play in a men's professional baseball game. Genevieve Beacom pitched for the Melbourne Aces, and the big leagues are taking notice.
In a league of her own, this Melbourne teenager is truly ahead of the curve. Last night, at just 17 years old, Genevieve Beacom took to the mound and made history.
Swing and a miss.
The first female to play a men's professional baseball game.
I'm just astounded by the kind of reaction I've had from pitching. I was in the mode and I kind of shut all of it out, but as I got off the mound, I kind of realised what I did and how big it was.
Not only play, but hold her own. Beacom completed a scoreless 6th inning for the Melbourne Aces, wowing the likes of Sports Illustrated, Major League Baseball and Fox Sports in the US. The extra attention might be new, but this 6'1" pitching prodigy has been taking on the boys since she picked up a glove at age 4. Do you feel like you belong?
Yeah, definitely. It's always been like predominantly boys that I've played.
I think walking in the locker room would have been more intimidating than actually getting out of the mound, because she's done that hundreds of times, but she handled that with just class.
Yeah, it's a little bit intimidating, but you know, the Aces have accommodated for me and they've just been so welcoming. It's been amazing.
A career in the big time beckons.
The sky is the limit.
Is playing, for a major league team, is that the ultimate goal?
I mean, I think it's everyone's ultimate goal, but I think just progressing as far as I can and as far as baseball can take me. I've gotten a lot of comments and messages people telling me how much of an inspiration, and it means so much to me to know that I'm doing this for other women in the sport.
One groundbreaking pitch at a time. Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
And here is Andrew again. Macca, what a finish to the fourth test.
Oh, Blake, it was a drama-charged final day and final hour at the SCG as the Aussies turned to an unlikely start for some late heroics and England, well, they could barely watch. Also, a stunning performance has Ash Barty primed for the Australian Open. Disaster strikes for another AFLW superstar and the former footy star left red-faced. Welcome back. Australia has fallen agonisingly short of pulling off a final day victory in the fourth test at the SCG. Needing 10 wickets, Pat Cummins turned to Steve Smith in search of some late heroics, but England dug deep to hold on for a thrilling draw that went down to the very last ball.
Day 5 started with an Alex Carey drop, a second chance grabbed by the keeper.
Edged out, Carey's got him this time.
Scott Boland with the breakthrough, David Milan undone by Nathan Lyon's arm ball.
Yeah! Got him! That's the one we're talking about.
Pre-match, Zach Crawley promised 100. The opener looked as good as his word. On 77, that promise was broken.
That is well worth a shout.
Cameron Green delighted, Joe Root in pain.
Let's just hope for Joe Root's sake that was thigh pad and not anything else.
Pain also drove Ben Stokes, given grief by that side strain. A tough Stokes chance slipped through Marcus Harris. Lights on after lunch for a brief rain delay before Boland put the captain out of his misery.
Is that a nick?
Root reluctant to leave on 24, Boland boasting 12 test wickets. Decisive and aggressive, Stokes pounced on anything loose. 9 boundaries featuring in his half-century. On 60, indecision.
Got him! Brilliant!
The all-rounder furious with himself, grabbed by the GOAT for the 9th time in Test cricket. Cue the captain.
Pat Cummins, huge shout!
Cummins review the right call. Josh Butler's fate reversed. No Aussie more pumped than the skipper. 2 wickets in 1 over.
That's a beauty as well. Cummins on fire!
Bring on the Boxing Day hero.
What about that? Thumping inside edge, simple catch. Boland does it for Australia.
Bad light prevented more pace bowling. Enter Steve Smith.
About there. About there.
1 wicket to get. England's last pair somehow surviving the final over. The drawn thriller denying Australia a series whitewash. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Oh, what an incredible finish. And England captain Joe Root spoke just a short time ago.
Well, it's hugely important, especially off the back of the previous Test match. It's probably one really dark day for English Test cricket, and it'd been very easy for us to roll over and feel sorry for ourselves. And I asked for the guys to try and put some pride back into the badge and to show how much you care about playing for England going into the game. And I think you can certainly say that was the case this week. I suppose not just the physical element to it, but the psychological of knowing that you're going into a pressured situation, not 100%, to then still be able to perform at the level that some of the guys did was phenomenal, really.
So after a thrilling finish, Seven's Mel McLaughlin is at the SCG to dissect the match.
Seven cricket commentator Simon Kadich joins me now. Kat, do not even tell me for 1 second that a draw in Test cricket is boring.
Not at all. It just goes to show the beauty of Test cricket. You can go 5 days. Both sides have shown plenty of fight, and England deserve a lot of credit for hanging in there, a lot of spirit. Once again, it was Stokes and Bairstow, and then the bowlers at the end. Jimmy Anderson, 6 balls he needed to face, and he got the job done.
Yeah, how fitting was it? We were on the edge of our seats, weren't we? Just winding down the clock and, of course, those overs. But that it was the elder statesman in Broad and Anderson when this could be the last time we see them.
Probably is the last time they'll be on these shores. So a remarkable effort. They weathered the storm. Pat Cummins and Scott Boland were outstanding. And then Nathan Lyon. But Steve Smith, nearly the hero there at the end, getting the wicket of Jack Leach. So the crowd loved it. I think everyone that would have been viewing at home loved it. And that just goes to show that Test cricket is alive and well.
It certainly is, and we can't forget, you mentioned Boland and Khawaja, the feats of Usman Khawaja and what we saw, Boland and Khawaja, no one expected those two to even feature.
Well, that's the thing, up until last week when Travis Head was fine, Usman Khawaja probably felt he was never going to play Test cricket again, and then Scott Boland obviously debuted at the MCG, and now he's nearly the leading wicket taker for the series.
Just couldn't make it up, could you? Thanks, Kat. We'll see you in Hobart.
Will do.
Meanwhile, across the ditch, one of the rarest things you'll see on a cricket field, 7 runs scored off just 1 delivery. Bangladesh dropped this edge in the slips. New Zealand completed 3 runs before this wild play.
Oh, there's going to be overthrows. They had 3. Oh, we're going to have a 7, are we? And the bowlers had to chase it down from the boundary as well.
After losing the first test, the Kiwis are 1 for 349 at stumps on day 1. The Melbourne Stars are privately seething about perceived double standards from Cricket Australia over the BBL's COVID chaos. Adam Zampa is one of several players who'll return after being sidelined with COVID in the new year, but the Stars are unhappy with the fact that they were forced to field a decimated team when other fixtures were rescheduled.
I'm not really one to answer that question. I reckon if I answered it honestly, I'd probably get in a little bit of trouble. So, I'll leave it at that. I think the Derby Day was taking the piss out of a little bit.
Zampa will captain the Stars against the Strikers tomorrow night in the absence of Glenn Maxwell, who's still in isolation. To tennis, and Ash Barty has kick-started her summer campaign in the best way possible, taking out the Adelaide International. The world number 1 now looks perfectly placed to break a 44-year Australian Open drought.
Ash Barty has a 16-1 record over top 20 players since last year. Ilana Rybakina is 14th in the world and no easy beat.
Oh, wonderful! Rybakina!
But the world number 1 got a break to take the first set.
That's a tidy set from Ash Barty.
Barty has been brutal to start the summer.
Yeah, take it on beautifully, Barty.
Comfortably closing out the match 6-2 in the second.
Look out, Australian Open. Ash is coming.
No Australian has won the Slam at Melbourne Park since Chris O'Neill in 1978.
You guys are fans have made this week exceptional for me. You've made it so much fun and you've brought that spark back into my tennis, and I thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it.
Tanasi Kokkinakis couldn't replicate Barty's semi-final efforts in Adelaide. Frenchman Gael Monfils cruising through in straight sets. Rafael Nadal is gathering some momentum.
Beforehand, it goes long from Ruusuvuori, and Rafael Nadal advances to the Melbourne Somerset final.
The Spaniard slowly building from a foot injury and COVID last month.
It's an important comeback after 5-6 months outside of the competition. Start another season, especially here in Australia, means a lot to me.
Tim Hipsley, 7 News.
Heartache for the reigning AFLW best and fairest Brianna Davey. The Magpies' 19-point win was soured by a serious knee injury in the season opener against the Blues.
That change of direction and the knee looks like it's sort of gone on her.
We hope that Breeze is okay, but that's footy, isn't it? It's bloody cruel. But great win by the girls.
Dog star Izzy Huntington suffered a similar fate in last night's clash with the Demons. Melbourne kick-started their campaign with a 24-point win. Taylor Harris kicked 1 goal in her debut in red and blue. Melbourne Victory looked headed for all 3 points against Adelaide United after a stunning strike in the 84th minute.
Oh! What about that from Nick D'Agostino? That is a thunderbolt.
But the Reds were able to snatch a late equaliser to secure a 1-1 draw. Victory still holds on to top spot on the A-League table. Cameron Smith is on track for victory at the Tournament of Champions in Hawaii. The Aussie held his nerve as world number 1 John Rahm equalled a course record 12 under 61. But Smith shot a 9 under himself and is in a tie at the top heading into the final round.
Can you believe it? This guy is amazing with that club.
Mark Leishman, Matt Jones and Cam Davis made it 4 Aussies in the top 10 ahead of the final round. And a daring bet has backfired on former Carlton and Gold Coast player Daniel Gorringe. Last year, he said he'd get a tattoo of coach Stuart Dew if the struggling Suns beat the Blues in round 21. And they did. Today, the moment of truth arrived as Gorringe followed through on his bet, permanently marking Stuart Dew on his backside. And on that note, Blake, that's all for sport.
I wonder what Stuart Dew thinks of that, if he's impressed or not.
No comment.
It's a bizarre one. Good on you, Macca. Sonia Marinelli is next with the forecast. Sonia, these settled conditions won't last.
No, they won't, Blake. So we need to make the most of it because although this week is warmer, the humidity returns and our afternoons could turn stormy. I'll have the details next. Good evening. After an unstable few days, today was just what the doctor ordered. Calm and settled, and tomorrow is even better. We started off the day under drizzly morning clouds. Soon enough, it was clearing, and this afternoon we were flooded with sunshine. It's lovely outside right now in the city. We're still holding on 21 degrees after hitting a high of 21.9. We barely got a sprinkling out of the clouds this morning, with no more than 0.2 of a millimetre recorded in any of the city gauges. And the afternoon sunshine gave us all a boost as most spots reached highs in the low to mid 20s. It got to 28 in Yarra Glen, 22 over in Geelong. Right now it's sitting on 18 degrees there. The drizzly cloud cleared southern Victoria this morning, while this afternoon some heavier showers just popped up over the eastern ranges. We are in a southerly airflow. We stay that way tomorrow, and then winds shift a bit more around to the east from Tuesday onwards. That's going to drag in more humid air that is coming off the warmer waters of the Tasman. At this stage, we stay that way right through the week. Around the nation tomorrow, Monday is mostly dry in Brisbane. A shower possible for those in Sydney. Hobart is cool with morning showers, but it is heating up in Adelaide, a top of 35 degrees there. Here in Victoria, Monday starts off under some morning fog in the south. Then there's lots of sunshine, heat lingering over the northwest, so the temperature rising to 41 in Mildura and Oyen. Elsewhere, the day is warm. Tomorrow afternoon, showers developing over the west, and there's a chance of a thunderstorm later in the southwest. Also, more showers and storms over the eastern ranges, which is very typical for this time of year. Closer in, there's patchy fog to start our morning, clearing to a mostly sunny day. We're heading up as high as 32 or 33 in the northeast, but 30 if you're in Essendon and in Moorabbin, 27 for those in Geelong. And we'll reach these highs fairly late in the day. They'll be boosted by a shift in the wind. So tomorrow, summer warmth returns to the city, and so does the sunshine. We start on 16 degrees, 29 is where we should end. The days turn humid after that. The risk of showers and an early morning storm on Tuesday, but a mostly dry afternoon. It's 27 degrees. Wednesday, humid and 29. Possible shower, but this time the risk of a storm is in the afternoon. And the days will continue like that right through until the weekend. They'll be warm and humid with the chance of showers. Also, a possible rumble of thunder each afternoon. So make the most of the settled start to the week. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. We are heading from 16 to a top of 29 degrees. And after that, we're going to find, Blake, that the weather turns very tropical, muggy from Tuesday onwards.
Yeah, a bit sticky, huh?
Absolutely.
A bit of sunshine through the week.
Yeah, and there's a chance of storms, but it most likely won't ruin the day. Those storms, as we know, they can be hit and miss.
All right, Sonia, thanks very much for that. And that is 7 News. Thank you for making us part of your Sunday. Up next, the Big Bash from the Melbourne News team. Good night.